Hi, everybody. Delighted to be here. My name's Simon. I'm President of FutureBrand North America, and I'm joined by Lynn.
Hi, everyone. Lynn Field, Head of Strategy for FutureBrand North America. Very nice to be with you all.
Great. So we'll kick off. And Tom, thank you very much for introduction. Kim, thank you very much for welcoming us. As I said, delighted to be here to take you through some of the opportunities we're seeing as FutureBrand through our proprietary study, the FutureBrand Index, and what are some of the opportunities and lessons for B2B brands going forward. So I'll kick us off with a quick introduction to FutureBrand, just to sort of set some context. We are a brand strategy and design firm. We're fortunate to work across 21 different markets, and we work with a whole host of different clients. B2B, obviously, consumer brands, large, small, at scale, whether that be UPS, Amazon, AWS. You can see a few examples here, such as Dow. And really, we focus on brand transformation in the support of business growth. And when we look at brand transformation, we look at two key elements, really, brand purpose and brand experience. So why a brand exists and what experience it's delivering against and across every touch point. And that brings us on to the FutureBrand Index, which is our proprietary study. It's in its 7th iteration. And we've recently just launched the latest findings in 2021. And as Tom and Kim said, there's some very interesting findings for B2B brands. A bit about the study first. What we do is it's a proprietary index, and we take the top 100 brands as they're ranked by Bloomberg by market capitalization. And then what we do is we take those top 100 organizations and then re-rank them. We go to a globally informed audience of 3,000 individuals across the world, and we get to we ask them to re-rank those brands against purpose and experience. And what you can see are 18 attributes that determine why a brand exists, how it delivers against individuality, thought leadership, authenticity, and mission as it pertains to purpose. And then, as you can see on the right-hand side, from an experiential point of view, what pleasure you are delivering, how well-known are you for the quality of your people, what trust are you delivering, and they score the brands and then re-rank those top 100 companies against those attributes and dimensions. So we have a re-ranking, and we'll take you through some of those key findings. But one of the other things that we get out of the study is, as you can see in the middle of the chart here, is a spider graph, and you can see where brands, this is just an illustrative score here, where brands score well, where there are opportunities for growth. So the spider graph on this example one here suggests that the brand has a very strong personality, engaging, very clearly defined. People understand and give it credit for that, but perhaps there's opportunity to tell more of a story, and that needs to be defined a little bit clearer. So we work with a whole host of clients, whether they're in the index or not, to help provide a score in and around purpose and experience, where there are areas for opportunity, where there are scores that are strong, what key audiences are looking for, and this is key within B2B and all marketing, really. Who are your key audiences, and what are they looking for from you? And then how can you then, through your purpose and through your messaging, through your experience, deliver a more consistent expression and experience for your different audiences? So that's the methodology across purpose and experience. And what we then do is we look at that across a number of key sectors. 5 key sectors appear within that top 100. You can see 4 here. There are 2 within consumer, so we've just kept the 1 there. And what we can do is look at data across those specific sectors. What are emerging themes? How have they evolved over the 7 studies that we've seen? And it becomes a very interesting benchmark for organizations within their category to look at. I'm a healthcare brand. How am I performing against the sector average? But equally, how am I comparing against outside sector averages? So a very prominent healthcare client of ours is looking to take benchmarks from the consumer landscape and understand, where does consumer brands score highly, and how can we deliver a consistent experience that people are coming to expect across all areas of their lives. So we look at those different sectors, and over the next page, you can see an example sort of snapshot of the kind of data that we see. So we've just taken Apple here, and you can see their spider graph top left, where there are strengths. The audience that we go to, we ask them to rank how they feel about the company as well, what they see as company performance, how they see them performing today, what they envisage their performance will be like in 3 years' time, and 2 other questions. Would you want to work for this organization? And would you want to buy products and services from this company? And so there's all sorts of different data we can glean from this. And it becomes very helpful as a benchmark for KPIs for our clients and a whole host of other brands and businesses as well, in and around purpose and experience, and really how brands can deliver against key behavior metrics. So that's a sort of a whistle-stop tour through the Future Brand Index itself. What we'll do now is we'll dip into the specific findings, and I'll hand over to Lynn, who'll take you through those key findings, particularly for this year, and what are some of the opportunities for brands going forward.
Thanks, Simon. So the headline for this year's Future Brand Index is that B2B brands have risen strongly and now dominate the top of our ranking. Apple, as you can see here, is the only consumer-facing brand from last year to retain a spot in the top 5. Our research for this year's index revealed that the companies that are thriving today are those who are prioritizing innovation to consistently impact individual well-being and drive change for good at scale. This dynamic, it so happens, has disproportionately impacted B2B brands. Tom touched on this a little bit earlier. They're the ones who are often seen as quite literally building the platforms and infrastructures we need to survive and on which human life can thrive in the future. Often these brands are absolute giants. They're not household names, but they are there powering everything from behind the scenes, for often they're more visible consumer-facing partners. So as Tom said, these are the businesses making the world turn. Now our index is shining a light on the role that they're really playing and how they're being viewed more broadly. So for example, let's look at ASML at the top of our ranking. It calls itself the most important tech company you've never heard of. They are a critical manufacturer of equipment for modern chip making. So absolutely at the center of the global chip shortage, which took hold last year. And it, of course, has disrupted life as we know it, impacting everything from cars to consumer technology. We also have Prosus, whose holdings make it Europe's largest consumer internet company and one of the largest technology investors in the world. It is seen as instrumental in ensuring businesses, individuals, and governments are literally able to function. Danaher, the only healthcare company in this year's top 5, they're an innovative Fortune 500 science and technology company, diverse markets from diagnostics and life sciences to the environmental sector, and NextEra Energy, a renewable energy company that wasn't even in the top 100. 2 years ago on our index. They're focused on delivering a sustainable future through alternative energy solutions. So this rise of B2B brands at the top of our index has taken place against another dynamic, which is of course the backdrop that we're seeing a dramatic redefinition of public expectations of brand. Today, we're seeing a new tier of expectation that is more diverse and unwilling to compromise than ever before. A lot of people attending today have probably seen that Salesforce statistic that 67% of customers say their standards for good experiences are higher than ever, while at the same time, 51% say most companies fall short of their expectations. The pandemic has supercharged public worry for the maintenance of life as we know it, from a global health crisis to social and political unrest to escalating environmental concerns. It made us realize just how interconnected and multidimensional our worries are. We all felt the same things for the first time in a long time. And the fragility of life and the infrastructures that are behind it and that enable it have been put in stark relief. So many of our worst fears are now front and center for our individual and collective health, for our wealth, the environment, our communities, and wider society. So all of this coming together puts us in a place where, like never before, the onus is on business to respond by deepening the value it creates, the needs it meets, and the roles it plays. But businesses won't get there by deploying old methods and established thinking. The good news is that not only will B2B organizations be able to rise to this challenge, it's B2B brands who are already leading the way. We got a sense of this a minute ago at our glimpse of the brands at the top of the index, but let's take a deeper dive into how, based on what the data is telling us. We see B2B brands leading by showing the world a new way of behaving that we at FutureBrand believe to be a blueprint for future success. We call it the super sustainable business. It's a new type of business that creates, supports, and exhibits the behaviors and practices on which the totality of human well-being can be maintained and extended. Our data show that these companies are the ones that are best positioned for growth in the future. So what are they? What is a super sustainable business? These businesses are characterized by 5 behaviors. This is regardless of size or sector or geography. First, as I noted, they are transforming purpose promises into clear platform infrastructures that will be fundamental to human life in the future. But they are also aligning every experience in service of that purpose platform. They prize individuality over differentiation. So they're focusing not on what makes them different from competitors, but finding their individual voice and using them to speak up for what people care about. They're consistent when very few are. Consistency is critical to trust, especially in B2B. It's where both trust is built and where trust falls down. And finally, they consistently evolve to stay relevant. That might be the hardest one, consistently evolving. As an example, I just want to talk for a minute about a company, Reliance Industries. You may not know them. They are the largest publicly traded company in India. This is a perfect example of a super sustainable business. They have very humble origins as a textile company with a focus from day one on giving people what they need for a fair price. Its founders, after initial success, decided to move up the value chain, growing that way into chemicals, then naturally evolved from there into oil and gas, then into broader platforms, encompassing a huge array: telecom, education, entertainment, and retail. They recently started expanding from oil and gas into renewable energy and recently bought the country's second largest grocer. So they have become, at this point, India's largest exporter. So they have thrived on what is focusing from day one on what is important to life and continually evolving to stay relevant to what people want and need, staying always consistent and true to their ethos along the way. Another business that we hold up as showing super sustainable qualities is one that's probably more familiar, Amazon. So it's no surprise, Amazon did incredibly well in a year when the majority of the world experienced a series of stay-at-home orders. But as it rose 13 places to number 11, the success wasn't just about or because of function. Their strongest attributes in our index in 2021 were actually mission on the purpose side and being a pleasurable brand on the experience side. So the breadth of their offerings, staying true to their story, from AWS to logistics to streaming content to health and beyond, helps them from being boxed into one sector vertical. And the momentum shows in our data. 74% of our respondents felt that the brand would still be moving ahead in 3 years' time. 74%. That's 20% above the index average on this measure. So brands like Reliance and Amazon are expert at creating meaningful service and product experiences that are part of these platforms. Platforms people believe can credibly entertain them, look after them, give them pleasure in the future. So they're buying into the brands now because they believe these brands are shaping the future of their categories. Let's take a closer look at 2 brands from the top of the ranking that have followed these super sustainable principles in an unexpected way that has unlocked a competitive advantage. So ASML and Danaher again, they performed well this year against attributes which are not traditionally associated with their sector. So put that simply, they've spotted the opportunity to boost their perception across attributes their competitors may not have even considered yet. ASML, in particular, appears to have an eye on becoming future-proof through this super sustainable approach as they deliver on their purpose. So their purpose is unlocking the potential of people and society by pushing technology to new limits. So as this specialist technology company, you would expect they would have strong perception performance against attributes like innovation and indispensability and the quality of their people. But you may be surprised to hear that this photolithography systems company has equally strong performance on being a pleasurable brand, contributing to human well-being, and having a clear and defined story. Similarly, let's look at Danner, the healthcare company. They grew 12 places this year, and they have grown their associations with, as you can see here, having a strong and engaging personality, having a clear and defined story, being a pleasurable brand, almost as much as attributes like mission, thought leadership, and authenticity that would naturally more connect with healthcare solutions and services. By contrast, let's consider two consumer brands whose performance in the ranking fell sharply this year. Both of these brands suffered from over-reliance on one or two experience attributes like being a pleasurable brand. So the consumer experience brand on the left here fell 9 places in the ranking, due in part to their inconsistent delivery. So we're looking for like a circle that's balanced all the way around, right? And the closer to the outside, the better the performance. So this is very uneven, even though some of these brands are pushing toward the outside. So what we're seeing here is that having a clear and defined story, being a pleasurable brand were strengths, but they weren't adequately balanced by the strengths in the other areas. Another way this can become a problem is if you look at the brand on the right. This brand had more balanced delivery across the attributes, but it's smaller, so lower performance overall. This helped contribute to a lack of resiliency in facing the current challenges and dynamics in the market. They had a drop of 32 places in the ranking. So what we see is that a focus on growing consistent cross-attribute performance around the circle is key to meeting the demands, the diverse demands of today's public and securing long-term and significant competitive advantage. Now, a critical factor, I just want to comment, in achieving that growth is ensuring that employees are aligned with the values of the brand. Without that alignment with these values brought to life, we see crises of confidence like what happened with Boeing, VW, Wells Fargo, where employees are making decisions inconsistent, actually counter to the brand values. So it's critical to have employees on board, to have them aligned, especially for B2B brands, where so much of the equity is created through the individual relationships that employees have with customers, the long-term relationships they're building, and where the purchasing stakes are so much higher than they are with consumer brands. For those of you whose company is not on the index, but you're curious about how your brand would have performed, you actually have the ability to build your own brand perception chart, like those we just looked at. You can generate a spider chart for your brand. Simply go to this link. Simon's just dropped it in the chat as well. All you need to do, it takes 5 minutes. Enter your brand name, select who from the index you would like to compare with. Could be a brand, a competitor in your sector, could be a reference brand outside your sector, or it could be a category as a whole. You can enter questions about the 18 dimensions, and then at the end, press a button and you're going to have a spider chart showing your comparison. So it's a great diagnostic tool. It gives you a sense of what your brand strengths and gaps are on all these performance attributes we've been talking about. And it's especially helpful for B2B brands. You can look at different perceptions where they might differ by audience or geography, because it really helps you understand the perceptual dynamics at play and what the differences are, what the strengths and gaps are holistically, and then with a double click in at a deeper level to your specific segments. So in addition to scoring your brand through this tool, you can use it as an exercise with your leadership team, with your board, with your agencies to really uncover key areas of opportunity for your brand. So why does all of this matter? Why does it matter now? The old way of living and operating has already been reshaped in line with the dramatic redefinition of public expectations, as we talk about. So to truly thrive in the future, today's businesses need to reframe the opportunity in a new context. It's no longer enough to do what you've always done or approach the challenge ahead with old tools. So our point of view is for B2B businesses, the opportunity is clear. Already familiar with building the infrastructures we need to go about our daily lives, there's immense opportunity for us to tell this story in new ways, embracing unexpected category agnostic attributes and going beyond B2B branding norms to think more holistically.
Thanks so much, Lynn. And just echoing that final point, we talk a lot about brand being behavior at Future Brand. And I think hopefully you've seen there through the super sustainable brands that there are certain behaviors that we can all follow. The old adage of behaving like a consumer brand is no longer relevant, as we're seeing. And really there is great opportunity if you think about your purpose and your experience of being consistent across all those key areas. It's relatively easy to identify where are the opportunities for stronger performance, and then how you can think about what your audience needs are, both internally and externally, to then ensure that your brand is getting the credit that it deserves. And with that, we'll say thank you very much. Very conscious of time, and we'll hand back to Kim, who I believe is going to kindly moderate any questions that are coming in. Thanks very much.
Lynn, Simon, thank you. Your emphasis on B2B being super sustainable is so important. You'll have seen our polar bear and wind turbine image at the start of today's event. We can thank B2B for that. We've received a number of questions. I have two that rise to the top. Are you ready?
Fire away.
All right. Achieving super sustainability seems such a vast undertaking. Where should B2B business and marketing leaders start?
Great question. Perhaps I'll kick it off and Lynn, jump in if there's anything you want to add. I think the first thing really is to, I would suggest, is to do an initial score your brand, see where there might be areas for opportunity, see where you have strengths, double down on some of those strengths. There is a lot to think about when you look at all 18 attributes. I'd say if there was one attribute to focus on, it would be trust. I think first and foremost, really think about the trust that your internal audiences give the brand and your external audiences as well. If there is opportunity to grow there, then think about how you can bring to the fore your why, your purpose, and how you consistently deliver that. We quite often go into organizations and see that there are a lot of truths and great assets to a brand that aren't getting the credit they deserve. And so I think it's about finding those opportunities, ensuring that you have the trust and you're being true to yourselves, and then delivering across those different attributes as it pertains to both purpose and experience.
Terrific, Simon. For a second question, how about this? The Future Brand Index focuses on companies with larger market capitalizations. Are there any key learnings smaller B2B businesses can take away from the index itself?
I can jump on this. This is a question we've heard before, and we would just encourage smaller companies, don't be daunted by the fact that these are global companies, they're billion-dollar market capitalizations. We work every day with clients ranging from startups to mid-sized companies to the larger global enterprises. And the same foundational principles really do apply. It comes to mind, the last time I think I got this question was related to a small privately held consultancy that we're working with in the tech space. So they felt like, we're privately held. We don't have investors. We don't have a lot of complex audiences. What they do have is employees and SME customers and a brand with equity and a story to tell them. So we worked with them and went through it and used the same tool, the diagnostic we just walked through, and it really helped them see how to provide a more holistic, balanced story, even to a more narrow audience, and then to equip the internal sales team and engineers and others to be able to all be on the same page about what that brand story should be so they could pull it through the experience.
Awesome. Lynn. So Lynn and Simon, thank you again. It's been fascinating, the look you've provided us for B2B brands resilience and growing strength.